We're at an interesting point in American history. It started years ago, but it's built up in the past couple months because of the stress, I think, with the coronavirus. I think that played a part in people being cooped up and tensions and the stresses of everyday life added up. You have mass unemployment, 40 million Americans unemployed. You have a contentious leader that even when he was running for office, you knew what you were getting. You were getting a very contentious person. And I think many people were saying that, look, as long as things don't totally get to a tense situation, we'll deal with Trump. And as long as nothing blows up, we'll just get past this 4 or 8 years, however long he's in office. But I think when you add the stresses of the coronavirus, I think when you add 40 million Americans unemployed, I think when you add $7 trillion for corporate welfare, and we still don't want universal health care or basic income, and you add that on top of 2008 when we subsidize corporations and we shame people trying to at least provide basic goods for themselves. It started when housing got unaffordable. I think you add the racial injustices that have been documented throughout American history and that are always an underlying current because it's at the foundation of the country. It's at a foundation of many countries. There's a level of tribalism against Sunni versus Shia, different religious and if not, ethnical differences amongst same cultures. But if you guys remember, and AI Gaming, it's great to see Envy, all the people, Frank, Savat. If you remember, if you guys watched my videos a couple months ago when the coronavirus first started, I said, first they'll shut down major resources, you'll have unemployment. The third stool, the third leg of a real problem is civil unrest. Now, obviously, I did not foresee the social injustice that would happen with the police officer last week, but it's always the straw that breaks the camel's back. And civil war, no matter where you look at it in the context of history or country, civil war is basically this. There have been imbalances in the system that are allowed to get too big. And it only takes one incident to break the camel's back. Whether that's financial inequality, and again, right now, it's not just with the coronavirus. This was before the coronavirus, almost why Donald Trump got elected, because even with low unemployment, you have many people underemployed, and you have a combination of factors between social, economic, generational. Donald Trump in his 70s is the last of that generation. And Donald Trump grew up in a time in a country where there was still a level of segregation. And many people from his generation did. And so for them, having equal say with women and with minorities, and that is not what they know. That's not the way they were brought up. And so obviously now you have a different generation getting ready to take over. The baby boomers will die out within the next 10 to 15 years on average. And you have a whole new wave of generation. Like every change, you have generational change, but you have a severe economical change. You have technology change. You have a group of people that still resist the smartphone. You have a lot of imbalances in the system, which are leading up to an environment where all you have to do is light a match. It's like you have a contentious, divisive leader. You have economic inequality, which even when unemployment was at its all-time low, you had people underemployed, and you had a lot of things that weren't, and now that you got a lot of people unemployed and, people can't even DoorDash right now. If you were a DoorDasher in Washington, D.C., or even Philadelphia was shut down last night, you can DoorDash. Even a person trying to make... So now what you're doing is, whether you're a truck driver like Savat, DoorDasher, or whether you're in the IT, I know people that got laid off last week. What you are doing, and I certainly don't want to add to it. I know I got to be cautious when I say F Trump, but I really, look, guys, I really think very lowly of Trump. I hate to say it. And I think lowly of the people that support him. I hate to say it, but it's the way it is. And I've never been a contentious person. I've never been someone who likes to instigate. I'm a peacekeeper, believe it or not. And I think you can believe it if you understand where we're at. But to me, I was one of the people I didn't like Trump. I didn't vote for him. But look, as long as nothing gets destroyed, whatever, let him have his moment in the sun and let all his followers. I don't really, but when he was tested, whether it was the coronavirus or other things, and tested now, he's failed every time. And all he really has to do is show a little bit of decency and shut the fuck up. Now, it won't make everything better, but it would at least change the environment a little bit. Because again, I acknowledge that there were even riots under Obama, but you never got to a point where you thought there was good, where it's at now. It's unbelievable. The president just gave an address to the nation, and there was ammo in the background of smoke, tear gas. It was amazing. Dick Gangster Talk, thank you, brother, for that super chat. He says Trump is a racist. I try to find a balance with that statement because many people have told me that. And I said, well, he may not be a blatant racist. Maybe he's just had a skewed perspective. But whether it's the Central Park Five, whether it's not putting Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill like she was supposed to be in 2020, whether it was not hanging Barack Obama's portrait in the White House, which was supposed to be done when he got, or whether it was telling the NFL players when they exercise their First Amendment right that they're sons of a bitches. I think now, you don't need a tape to say he is racist. There's different levels of racism, of course. I don't think he may be but there's no doubt about it. He's a disgraceful human being. Even if he wasn't a racist, he's a piece of shit. And again, I hate to say it like that, but it is what it is. At a certain point, you can't hide behind the fact that you have a really nasty person. And I know I have to be nasty in saying these nasty things, but look, like I always tell you guys, look, you could be very nice like Jesus, Martin Luther King, Gandhi. They'll still shoot you and they don't give a shit. So you could be an angel. I don't want you to be a devil like Trump, but you only take so much. And, look, do I think we go to civil war? I don't think so. I don't think it's as bad as it was during the original American Civil War. I know my man, shout out to him, Savat, my member, he had brought up that he comes from a country that he had went through that. And I've known a lot of immigrants, my grandparents are immigrants, that they left their country for the same reason, to come to America for a level of better opportunity. But I don't know. I've known a lot of Italians that came from Italy. They're racist. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Now, I've known some black people too that could be considered a racist. I will be fair and say, look, I've met racists from all different races. There's been time I've been the only white person at Miller Projects. There's been times I've been, but I've also seen people, even in today's modern era, I don't want to say blatantly racist, but you could tell they're skewed. But I'm a fair person that I can say that America has a legacy of racism that affects things even today. And, and part of that obviously is a minority experience, which they'll have to speak to. I won't overspeak on that, but I've always been a humanitarian. So to me, I have no problem yielding to someone of a different race or religion and saying, look, let them speak their pain. Let's come up with a solution and and that's why I've always been for universal health care and universal basic income. I've debated how do we deliver them. Okay, I've debated how do we deliver universal health care? Because I simply feel look, whether it's race or religion, it's hard to keep families together. My family, none of our families speak. So I have all of my family. We're all Italian. We're all come from the same like religion back, and really none of us speak to each other. So I say that to say it's very hard to keep people together. I understand that through human nature. So I'm not a person that says or tries to lie and say keeping people together is easy, even if they're all the same origin. It's even more difficult when they're all different. But I believe in a society based on a level of humanity where there'll still be unrest at times. There'll still be bad stuff that happens because people are human, and it's sad, but it's true. But at least there would be a foundation of a lack of despair, a lack of imbalance. Because again, in my opinion, and in the history, most, if not all, civil wars or dictators start or fall when there's too much imbalance in the system, financially, socially, injustice, whatever the imbalance. If you add them all together, then you have a tipping point, okay? And so usually that's what happens. And I think that's where we're at now. Again, I don't think we're at a point, I could be wrong. I don't think at a point to actually go to that level. I think it's a snapshot in time. But I mean, for me, I think when Donald Trump got elected, even that day, you could feel it in the air that it was trouble. Like when you dates or when you meet someone, you kind of know if they're going to be trouble or not. And Donald Trump, his whole life has been a little bit of trouble. Okay. And like I say, go back all the way to the Central Park Five, where he called for the execution of 5 people without knowing all the information. And that information came out to prove that they were innocent of that crime. And he never apologized. He has no repentance. And so, where do we go from here? Okay. Well, again, I think we go forward as humans no matter what. Obviously, my prayer and my hope and my actions is, that you're able to push forward with as least harm as possible. It's a tough thing. Obviously, I preach peace, but I watched even before the president gave his address tonight, there was peaceful protesters, and he ordered them to be tear gassed because he wanted to show strength. I think about just 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump told Hong Kong was protesting China. And Donald Trump told China, let those protesters protest. That's their right. And China said, look, this is our society. It'll cause civil war if we allow too much protest. I'm paraphrasing. But now, how could we ever tell any other country, whether it be Russia, China, whoever, how can you tell any other country to let people be a democracy? When you had tonight, now I know there's been exceptions, but tonight all you had was peaceful protests before the president spoke, and they got tear gassed. So you can never have to, and that's where America always struggles with in the world stage. Because as good as America could be, it could also be a level of hypocrisy. Just like it's hypocrisy now for everyone who says, if they were only peaceful protesters, we wouldn't care. Because in figuratively speaking, they crucified the NFL players. I may have not even agreed with it, but I stood with their right as a citizen to protest a flag if that was their choice. And some people could not accept that. Now they're saying that, we would accept that, but we won't accept violence. So it's like, at what point, do you say, look, it becomes unbearable, unbalanced. So, the positives I see out of this is I do see people of all the next generation of all races, religions, cultures. I saw Asians, whites, black, Spanish, all together protesting. I think that's a positive. I think you got a tough 6 months. You say, Sam, why are the next 6 months tough? Because you're going into an election year with high unemployment. You have a bad leader, and obviously I'll vote for Biden, but Biden's it's going to be tough to get Biden in. And so you have a vacuum of leadership. And so what you're really faced with now is 6 months, 6 months down the road, all the people who are unemployed and who aren't getting enhanced, they won't be getting enhanced unemployment benefits 6 months from now, even though I do think they'll have to pass another stimulus package now. I do. Because now even more businesses can't open. Now people can't DoorDash, people can't be truck drivers in certain areas. What you're doing is the system is getting worse. And the system itself, the capitalist system without Social Security and Medicare, is a destitute system. That's what we learned in 1930. And that's why we changed it a little bit. We put some social reform. So what you're going to have, okay, in a capitalist system where we're saying the definition of capitalism is companies exist to make a profit. The shareholder is more important than society. The Dow Jones average is what we wake up to, not the quality of our life. In that environment, added to enough imbalances where you don't have a middle class like you used to, you have some level of social equity where you didn't, with women and minorities having more empowerment in the community. But obviously you have issues like you had last week. You have a recurring pattern there in law enforcement, and they have a tough job. It's fair, but it's a combination of many factors, okay? And you added a lot of ingredients to create this environment. Like I say, it's obviously, look, it starts with Trump, it ends with him. Because I think no matter what, again, you would have had, just like under Obama, just like under any other president, you're always going to have periods in human history where there's ups and downs. But I think you add a little bit more pain to people's already suffering. I know people right now, they're really struggling mentally. Just because the coronavirus really scared them, they're at-risk people, they've been in their house, they're dealing with people telling them one thing then the other. Job market's gotten worse. Tensions in public have gotten worse. And you got more rhetoric, and you're getting ready to go on election season. You got a lot of negatives feeding the beast, which is civil unrest. Okay. It's always there. I remember one time watching a documentary, and they said civil peace is like a duck on a pond. If you ever see a duck on a pond, or it's like just floating along. And when you look at the duck on the surface, you say, wow, it's amazing how it just glides. It's very easy. But if you look under the water, the duck is paddling like hell to glide like that. And that's how peace is. That's how civil peace is. It's like in your household, right? You think about that. Always think about civil war like your house. And most houses, if you grow up, a couple things and an argument starts, and it's like a world war. It's a war, And then there's civil unrest. There's unrest in the house. And obviously you magnify that with, again, social, economic, racial, all these different imbalances in the system, and a generational gap, because you're in that generational gap right now where you got the baby boomers dying off. You got next generation on a different wavelength. And Donald Trump was the last of the stubborn generation mindset, of the generation that still experienced the segregation, the tough talk, the I'm a tough dad, I'll make you respect me by being even a tougher dad. That generation is over. Now, there's some great people of that generation that are good people that didn't vote for Trump, etc. But there's a certain mindset there. So it's like, and when there is a level of heightened division, people have to choose sides. There's no way around it. And that's, again, what it feeds the beast. Because really, it's tough to say, but it's true that civil unrest gets so bad, there's so much suffering, and then people are ready to hear calmer voices. But right now, I don't think you have a level of people want to hear the calmer voice. And one of the main reasons is you have the loudest voice in the country, the bully pulpit, Donald Trump. He doesn't foster that type of relationship. He never has. That's never who he's been. Again, even in the 1980s, he took out a paper calling for an execution of people. He has always been who he is. And there are certain people that voted for him because they want that. And they didn't even care if it led to a civil war. They don't think much of, things. So, I at least wanted to do another live. I know I did one early, but it's on my soul. It's a period in history they have to document. Do I think we will totally destroy America? I don't think so. I mean, obviously, look, I think things have been a lot worse in previous generations. And I feel still very privileged to be here at this time period. But I think you could see this coming, just like you could see when you first meet someone and you know their trouble, and then 10, 20 years later you get in a nasty divorce. It's not like you didn't see it coming. And 20, 30 years ago, when Donald Trump came on the scene, we knew he was trouble. Everything he touched is trouble. But a couple of his brute successes through manipulation and look, even when he got voted in, you knew it was trouble. I remember a dark cloud came over the inauguration. To me, the guy's trouble. That's where it is, So I don't know. We'll read all live comments, guys. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you clicking a thumbs up. Thank you, Gangster Talk, for the tip, brother. I appreciate you. I'll read what you got to say so your voices are heard. I know I usually block Trump people, and I will, because I don't know if there's anything productive that can come from it. I really don't. I don't think. I just don't think it is, and I don't want to get in a screaming match because at this point, obviously, have to protect my well-being, and that's a full-time job. So it's a shame, I lost a lot of. I'm a loner, but even on YouTube, I've lost a lot of friends who are Trumpers. I wouldn't say I'm friends, but people that watch. And there's something in the pit of my stomach that even when I see them or feel them or I see a Trump 2020 flag, I don't know how I can't be around them. I just don't want to be around them. I mean, it's sad. I mean, I even know some people that are good. I mean, I don't want to see bad come upon anyone, but it's just, it's like, when, I don't know. We all need forgiveness. I understand that. But, I just feel like a lot of this was just so avoidable. But I don't know. Now let's read what you have to say. I don't want to fumble around words. Savat, we're back. Yeah, we're back, brother. I appreciate you. And you inspired me too, because you left a good comment about, you feeling like very similar to being in Bosnia when there was a civil war, civil unrest. And a lot of people experienced that. And again, I think we're still fortunate in many ways to be in America, but it's all based on your perspective and what your experience in America has been and is. And if you feel like, you're being heard, and if you have social economic opportunity and the household you grew up in, and obviously how you hear the leaders speak up, I mean, that's all part of how you feel about the country. Like, you could put two people in the same room. They've had a different experience with America. They look at the flag different. They look at the, and I understand that. So it's an interesting thing. Frank, I appreciate you. Trump is sending the military. I saw that. And the sad part is he's escalating. He's not a YouTuber. He's not a pundit on Fox or CNN. I mean, they have a little bit more liberties on, look, you want to be a Rush Limbaugh? I think he's a disgrace too, but there's a platform to be a blogger. And even if Trump wasn't in office, like when he wasn't, like when he called Obama lack of leadership during the riots, but when you're the president, but what he thinks is what he always thinks is that the tougher you get on someone, the more you make them respect you. But what he doesn't realize is just like a tough father, eventually they say, go fuck yourself. And then, then you have a big fight. Tony, man, thank you, brother, very much. It's great to see you, man. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to Marilyn. It's good to see you, Tony. I hope you and I always praying for the spirit of your mother. I know you had a good mother, brother, so I'm appreciative of you. I think about that when I visit my mom, brother. I hope you're doing well. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Gangster Talk, too. But, yeah, I mean, I will go back to live comments, guys, and I appreciate you watching tonight. But, that old school, tough, nasty father that really doesn't know how to balance that with a level of love and empathy, they eventually drive their children away, or their children are so insecure they're willing to deal with their father for an inheritance. So it's it's an interesting thing. Snow Panther, is this another dream? Yeah, it's crazy, Snow Panther. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to Nathan. Um, it's another stream, brother. Yeah, it's another stream. Uh, I just felt led to do it, you know. Look, this is my venting thing too, because look, you guys know, I mean, I was with my mother, but my mother's stressing a lot too. Again, my mother's a high risk elderly person. She went through a lot with the coronavirus. She's still going through a lot. So is, my other family members. And add that on top of the past couple weeks, it's a lot, especially for a senior. You don't realize, like as you get older, you don't have the mental capacity to deal with it. And you'll see, like most of the people out there protesting, just like every other generation, they're younger people because they have the strength and the wherewithal. And again, the inspiring thing is there's people of all colors, all races, all religions. And I like that. I dig that. But for an older person, their mind and their body is decaying. And, how much more fight do you have in you? You don't have that much. And what a senior really wants to do is live their life in peace. Of course, I think about people. I don't just think about America. I think about people throughout the world. And that was their dying wish in many worlds. And they had to deal with a lot of civil unrest because of maybe certain policies of other countries, maybe even America. So, there's no answer, I mean, in one sense. I mean, but obviously, I don't know all the answers, but I know that the type of leadership that Donald Trump has given and does give is not the answer. I know that no president's perfect. I know that Barack Obama wasn't perfect. I know Hillary wasn't perfect. I know Biden won't be perfect. And I acknowledge that. But I always say to myself, if I have to choose between one or the other, what's better? Not what's more spiteful. And in my spirit, I fully believe that they voted for Donald Trump for spite. Rush Limbaugh asked today, well, Obama had 8 years in office. Why don't you blame him? Well, as soon as Donald Trump got in office, he reversed everything Obama built. Obama built a country going forward with a healthy foundation. Donald Trump unwound everything, including a path to universal health care. Okay. He unwound everything and added fuel to the fire. Okay. And so it's just, and then for Rush Limbaugh, and that's why I really don't like the Rush Limbaughs and the Donald Trumps of the world. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong on this. I mean, I know that they have a level of intelligence above being brain dead. So for them to act like they don't know what they're doing, to me, is just hurtful. Now, I don't know. Maybe they're so dumb they don't. I don't know. But I don't look them in them as dumb. I mean, I think they know how to play the system. That's what I think. So, again, look, for me, I don't know, man. I just... And I also think about all the pregnant, young or middle-aged women that are having kids, bringing kids to this world. Now, I say that, and again, I acknowledge that. Look, we're in a lot better place today than in many other times in history. So I don't want to start to say, oh, everything's horrible. It's not horrible. But it's a spirit that's in the world, that's always in the world, and that's why I really don't love the world too much. But I think about what type of spirit chose to choose Trump. I really do. And I even had some people I knew that chose, and again, of different backgrounds. I know a couple people, Puerto Rican, voted for Trump. A couple black voted for Trump. A bunch of old white voted for Trump. Now, they have their own reasons, and maybe they felt right in them. And I understand the hesitancy with Hillary. But I said to myself, I mean, I got to choose between these two. I got to choose what I feel is best. Like Howard Stern said, he asked, like, Trump, yeah, you can win, but are you the best suited person for this job? No. Look, guys, temperament matters. I know like that's corny and you don't want that to be true because you want to believe that the temperament and the personality that you have doesn't matter to the job you apply, but it does matter. Like I always tell you guys, I know my temperament. I wouldn't be good with a house and 3 kids. Okay. But it doesn't mean that I say abolish all houses and 3 kids, even though sometimes I do. Yeah, but you know what I mean? I always tell you guys, look, for me, I wouldn't put myself in a position where I know that I'm not well suited at this point in my life. I'm middle-aged. At younger point, I mean, I made mistakes. We all do. But Donald Trump's in his 70s. He knows the type of personality he has. So one is I think he only ran for office because that was the only way he really made money in life, was branding his name. Not through real estate, not through casinos. He went bankrupt 6 times. He made his money through branding the Trump name, making it appear like he was wealthy, and then getting a TV show where he was the boss and he fired people, and everyone that worked for him were his relatives. Guys, that's a dictator, and that's what everyone's in office. Do you want to hear from Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner? I don't want to hear from them. They're not qualified. They're kids. They're his kids. So, but that's what happened in the show The Apprentice. You had regular people working their ass off to get Donald Trump's approval. And if you didn't get his approval, just like a spiteful father, he would fire you. I mean, I say to myself, that's what the country voted for? Now, I think maybe part of the country voted for just to see the show, the circus. And that's true. And it's sad that there are actually people out there in the world, that's their mindset. They don't really care about anything. They just want to see a show. They want to see drama. And you say, Sam, people like that don't exist. Well, if you're ever driving on the road and you see an accident and all the cars are off onto the shoulder and there's no reason to slow down, but yet people still slow down to see the damage, that's human nature. Now, I don't. For me, as long as I see the ambulance and things there, I just pass by and I pray for them. But I don't stop down and slow and look because I feel like that's hurtful to them. And like when I see people, whether it's in a car accident or pulled over, as long as I see like the situation is stable and there's help, I don't enjoy the circus and the drama just to see other people going through drama. Okay. And, civil war is when you have the extreme mindset take over because of the imbalances in the system. And you say, well, that's stupid because the best life is a balanced life. And that's true. But like a balanced diet, it's not exciting. The exciting things about life are the extremes, the very muscular person, the Arnold Schwarzenegger, or the documentary on the anorexic person, or the extreme athlete. You don't really watch a well-balanced person in an entertainment thing. You watch the extreme. I mean, even my channel, I don't know, I guess, but there's part of my channel that I guess grabs an extreme audience where, let's see this crazy guy living out of his car. It's extreme. It's different. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, man, but, it does matter who's president. Sometimes people say that. We're going to go back to live comments. Sometimes people say that to me, and I found that to be a false statement, that it doesn't matter who's president, and it does matter. And the only thing that I do have a gripe with Colin Kaepernick is he didn't vote. That was a huge gripe I had with him. Because to me, I think he had the right to protest, but then he didn't vote. In my spirit, I truly feel that Donald Trump being in president is making the situation worse, not better. Okay, and I have seen statistically in America, which is supposedly the greatest democracy, we got about 300 million people. Only half of the people vote in most elections. So when only half of the people vote, but Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for him, you ain't black, but then he apologized. Has Donald Trump ever apologized? No, he hasn't. And the chances are you're a nasty bitch. And most people who dated you said the same thing. And you probably even said the same thing about yourself, but I'll apologize to you. Did Donald Trump ever apologize? Nope. 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 And that's the difference. I agree that Biden probably has dementia. And he's, not the greatest choice, but he's a better choice. Same thing with Hillary. I'm a fair person, guys. To me, if there's a better person, I know it's all a shit show. Like, I'm not the type of person to say, like, you're going to get one grand, because I know there's a system and everyone plays the system. And we're trying to find a level of balance, and it's never going to be perfect. So I've gotten past the point mentally where we're going to have a perfect world. We're not. And sometimes that's why I question God. I said, God, did you create this craziness? But I always have to say to myself, Sam, what's better? Like, I don't eat just fruits and vegetables anymore. But when I go to the store and I get something to eat, I used to be obese and I used to be anorexic. I said to myself, well, I don't want to eat a bucket of fried chicken anymore, but I also don't want to go back to eating just salads with beans. What can I find? Well, maybe I would get, like, 3 pieces of grilled chicken or salmon, or a light bag of potato chips instead of a whole bag of Doritos. So I try to make better choices with my life. Not that I think that there's a one thing that's going to solve everything. Again, there's not. So I always look at Joe Biden over the weekend. He went on the field with the protesters and took a knee in solidarity to humanity, to say, as a country, I may be brain dead, but I at least have enough empathy to take a knee, even if he was just putting up a show. Donald Trump escalated the army today. That's a dictator. And everyone who wants small government, you're seeing the biggest government in U.S. history. You're seeing a person activate National Guard, activate the military, and militarize against peaceful protesters. Tonight, it was all peaceful so far. So, look, that's what it is. I'll go back to live comments. Thank you, guys. I love you, Frank. Envy, it's great to see you. Love to Alaska. How's Alaska doing, Envy? It's great to see you, and I hope you're doing well. And God bless you. I just watched a live stream with Trump speaking. It was very sad, frustrating, angering, and he's gone. Let me finish your comment. I'm sorry. He's talking about using the military, against American citizens. He's crazy. NVRV, I was thinking about you today. I remember when you asked me, because I think NVRV tried to be fair, because she's from Alaska, a lot of conservatives there. And she said, Sam, a lot of Alaskans up here, this was years ago, like 2-3 years ago, when Donald Trump was just getting elected, and we were talking about the NFL players taking a knee. And she goes, Sam, a lot of players up here, a lot of people up here in Alaska, they don't think that the NFL players should be taking a knee. And I said, well, basically she said that. And I said, well, how do they feel about the First Amendment? The First Amendment is the First Amendment, you have freedom of press. That's number one, fake news. So that's attack on that. The second thing you have is the right to gather and to protest the government for any reason. Military is going against that, so now he's voiding that. And any religion or no religion. But part of my understanding of the NFL players taking a knee was that's their right. Okay. So, again, I didn't like that Colin Kaepernick didn't vote, because I think he didn't use his right to exercise. But I still, even if I disagree with him, maybe how he approached it, he still had the right to do it. And everyone was like, no, but they love their Second Amendment right. So the same people that hate that, they hate if you would try to take away their gun. You could take away their right to protest and say Antifa. But what if I say Wolf is part of Antifa? I want to take away his gun. He'd probably go nuts. He's probably reloading with his gun right now. Okay. After a mass shooting, if we say we want gun control, they go crazy. Okay. So after a protest, they say it's Antifa, we got to militarize. They say, oh, be strong, Donald Trump, show them. They're fucking hypocrites. Okay. So guys, look. If you didn't like when NFL players took a knee, you don't like what's going on now. Okay. Because you have the same mindset of you love this country, but only when it's good to you and it is what you want it to be. Not what the founding fathers said it to be, but the founder fathers themselves were slave owners and women oppressors. That's the truth of America. And we want to say, well, we're past that point. Well, I said, okay, are we past that point? We voted for Donald Trump. Does he believe in that? What's his history with minorities, with women, with freedom of speech, with freedom to protest? He told Hong Kong last week, keep protesting. China has no right to stop you from protesting. So then we should tell China, okay, go get the military, because these are anarchists. That's what China said. Like, look, these are people, anarchists. We didn't tell China, well, get the military then. We told China, we blamed the coronavirus on China. We blamed the WHO. Donald Trump is a blamer, not an accountability. He takes no accountability, no responsibility. You have a lack of leadership. And you have people who support that lack of leadership because of their own skewed perspective growing up and some deep-rooted American culture history. Okay. And that's part of what civil unrest is. Okay. a bunch of inequities in the system built up over time. A couple things escalated, and then it barrels over. And it's a constant struggle with human nature. Nathan, Trump is crazy. It's very sad. I love to you, Nathan. Thank you, brother, for your love. AI Game, is great to have you back, man. I thought I lost you, and maybe I apologize. In the last live feed, I hope you're still in here. Please leave a comment if you're still in here. Last live feed, I said something negative about someone else, but you had, somehow you had brought it up, but I didn't, when I spoke about it, I wasn't meaning to be negative towards you. So I thank you, for your graciousness. I know you sent me some, I thank you for that, but one is, I hope I hope you didn't feel like I was coming at you. I just didn't like Nomadic Fanatic thing. Not directed to you though, just to him. He goes, strange how this martial law that is happening was predicted by so many. It's true. Now look, again, it's a sad thing. NVRV. We're headed for scary times. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I physically saw protests today. Okay. And I'm not in the middle of the city. You couldn't DoorDash in Philly or other places right now if you wanted to. So, but the protesters I saw were all of all different races. And they weren't Antifa. I mean, you're seeing it all throughout the country. So is everyone Antifa? Is everyone in Hong Kong Antifa? I think you always have shit stirs. I've definitely, no matter what. But like I say, I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't want things to go beyond peaceful. But I just, in my own thoughts, these are my thoughts. Martin Luther King, Jesus were as peaceful as you can be. They were violently killed. If the protests, let's just say that all the protests were peaceful, would anyone really care? And so, again, this is how extremism starts. Extremism is inequities, imbalances in the system that manifest more and more over time. They're allowed to continue. And then eventually it takes violent acts for people to wake up. But sometimes violence begets violence, and it is a never-ending cycle of human nature. It's sad. But like I say, part of this is, again, there's a big part of it is financial inequity. And I think what Americans just saw, in 7 weeks, we printed $7 trillion. And most Americans, if they were lucky, they got $1,200 one time. And they don't want to extend your unemployment. They want you back to work. I mean, there's not that much work back for everyone because I'm still seeing layoffs, but it makes you say, well, who do we work for? How did the corporations get 3/4 of the bailout money? And they're still laying off. Donald Trump first called the coronavirus, I won't say a hoax because I know that was taken a little bit out of context, but he said it was nothing more than the flu. Then he said it was horrible, we have to shut down the country. Then he said we have to reopen the country, liberate America, when he ordered people to stay home. So he took us on a whirlwind emotionally. You don't know what to believe. And then you have him militarizing. And one is he didn't even acknowledge the George Floyd death until almost a day after it happened. He was complaining on Twitter that Twitter was being unjust to him because it had an exclamation mark on some of his tweets that were inciting violence or maybe not true because of ballot voting. So you had a man that's in charge of the country that instead of speaking up about another citizen getting killed and right on videotape, he chose to direct his energy about Twitter being unjust to him. So I think right there within itself, it shows you that he wasn't paying attention or didn't want to pay attention until he had to. He doesn't really care. In my spirit, I think unless other people made an issue, I don't think he would have made George Floyd an issue. And George Floyd is one part of the equation of all the imbalances, but I don't think he has the type of empathy to look at a video like that and to feel the pain of the mother, of the society, of the minority, of the overall well-being of the land. I think he looks at that and says, he looks more at the stock market. I think he looks more at the Dow Jones stock market ticker than he does on how to improve the quality of human, of Americans of all types. I really do, and so it's an interesting thing. Savat, he goes, black people got the short stick, I feel. Look, there's no doubt that minorities and women, in general speaking terms, were left out of the constitutional rights that were guaranteed to them under the founding fathers. And there's a legacy of that still comes to this day, whether it's housing projects, whether it's certain women are considered a bitch if they speak up. And if a woman had the same temperament of Donald Trump, okay, now I know I just called Annie a bitch, but she knows what I mean. If a woman was a woman was Donald Trump, to me, no matter what, I think is disgraceful, because I'm not going to pander to a woman or to anyone just based on who they are. But I acknowledge that women and minorities were given the short end of the stick in society, and now in many other countries too. But in America, if we're talking about in America, and part of the riots in the 60s were for minorities and women, and there were riots before that for labor rights. So it's like the world, and I think this is where it's a world issue, is the world makes you fight for everything. And again, even in Hong Kong, like, do we really have empathy towards the Asians, towards the Indians, towards the Middle Eastern? Do we really have empathy on what they go through in especially poverty? The Philippines. I've known people that come on my channel. I had a couple of good Philippine friends growing up. I know people that come on my channel. They want to move to the Philippines just because it's cheap to live and they can get a woman easily. And they can get a woman easily because she's like Melania Trump. I mean, she needs the green card. And I understand she wants to get out of poverty. I'm stripping on YouTube now. So, but I think about that. I think about what they have to go through. That's empathy. And, you think everyone's born with it. Like, we're all imperfect. I'm imperfect. And I've made, obviously, mistakes. I still make them, especially as you're younger. But there's been times in my life where I made the mistake that I thought everyone was born with empathy. And it's not the case. They're not. Now, we can all be assholes at times, myself included. I do not exclude myself from being wrong at times. But even saying that itself is like Joe Biden. I mean, you apologize when you're wrong, okay? And Trump, I haven't ever seen him sincerely apologize without blaming someone else because of what he did. And that's where you have all pride, all ego, no humility. And that's, you say to, and anyone of faith to back someone like that, I say to myself, what type of faith do these people have? It's an interesting thing. Old gringo. Good to see you, Backwoods. I'm going to get to everyone. Love to you guys. Let me take my sweater off, man, because I'm hot as hell. I'm sweating, man. Old gringo. I lost my house in 2008. Now, I'm sorry to hear that, brother. Broke up my family, too. Old gringo, that's a great comment. Yeah, I know a couple people that lost their house during the Great Recession. And the banks really got away with a lot. Now, us as society, we took on too much debt, too. I had too much debt during the housing crisis. Like I say, thank God I didn't have a family or two, I could have got buried too. I mean, like I say, you got unaffordable housing right now. You don't have wages at the pace of housing costs. You have a lot of seniors. Like I know a couple older women that are living in their vehicle now, and I think they want to. I think that's their personality. But I think, like, how does a minority and women come into play even in today, 2020? Well, there's certain women that are in their 70s now. They grew up in a generation that didn't have equal rights. They didn't have opportunity financially like men. Okay, and you could say the same thing about minorities. So it still lingers in society until generations pass through with a level of everyone's integrated into a level of opportunity. It's just, again, to me, how do you cure the civil unrest? I think you cure it with everyone has to have equity in common decency through basic health care and a basic income, a shared stock market where everyone gets a dividend. Everyone has basic health care covered, just like every other developed nation. America is the only developed nation that its people don't have basic health care, okay, without paying for it themselves. And you say, Sam, you pay through your taxes. You pay more paying it individually than you would through your taxes. And I'm fine with keeping the tax rate the same and just going into national debt like we did last month. Last month, we printed $7 trillion in 7 weeks. And again, people got a quarter of that. 3/4 of it went to the corporations. I heard a doctor today calling Dave Ramsey. And I think Dave Ramsey, he's not, he's taught me some good things, but he doesn't really speak up when he needs to. There's a doctor today making $650,000 a year. And I think doctors should make more. I know they go through a lot of schooling, a lot of college loan debt, which, I think college loan debt is a little bit of a disaster too. But it's not bankruptable. I think that's, if Donald Trump didn't go bankrupt, he wouldn't be where it is. So why don't we allow college loan debt to be bankruptable? But I thought about that today. You have a doctor making $650,000. You got a nurse probably making anywhere between 60 to 80 on average, probably. You got the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical bills. The coronavirus, who benefited off it mostly was the pharmaceutical companies. You have the biggest drug dealer in the world is the pharmaceutical companies, no longer the street corner. And not all drugs are bad. Not all medications are bad. And I think it's good that pharmaceuticals and free markets can work, but you have imbalances. How does civil war start? Too much imbalance. So, you got the CEO of Walmart. What does he make compared to the average Walmart worker? Walmart's like the second biggest employer in the world. So, again, it's, and I tried to support Andrew Yang early on. I was with him before he was even on Joe Rogan 2 years ago. But I do agree that he didn't have, and that's why I was getting frustrated when he didn't have the emotion to bring home the point. He had the math. I think he's a very smart guy. I don't think he's perfect. I'm sure he's got flaws. But humans are mainly emotional. Civil unrest is emotions compounded over time, and there's a couple things that breaks the camel's back. Because, again, you got a lot of people stressed, a lot of people scared, frustrated, and angry, and you don't have, not just their voices being heard, you just don't have good leadership. A combination of all things. Let's continue to read. I know I'm stretching my thoughts. I apologize for that. But old gringo, I apologize for not taking enough time to just say, look, look, a lot of people got caught in that housing bubble, and I love you, man. I appreciate you sharing. Jay, Inspirational Nomad, greetings from your fellow New Jersey brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate that, Jay. Love to you, man. Love to New Jersey. You guys know I say New Jersey's a disaster. But I always say, too, though, for those who watch the full context of my videos, that without being born in New Jersey, I would never have had the job opportunities. If you go to Kentucky, if you go to Mississippi, if you go to many parts of Florida, there is no middle class. There's a lot of poverty. Look at the highest levels of poverty. Like, again, I don't think all the Democratic states have it right, but if you go to Florida, you go to Palm Beach where Mar-a-Lago is, it's one of the wealthiest it's a beautiful place. You go 10-minute drive inland to West Palm Beach, there's homeless people literally laying on the street. In New Jersey, there's certainly bad neighborhoods, but there's a middle class, or there was, shrinking. You say, Sam, there's high taxes. Let me tell you this. The state income tax in New Jersey is approximately 5%. The wage difference from New Jersey to Florida is probably about 25% lower. So even if you don't have to pay state income tax, you're going to get paid 25% less. You're going to lose money. That's why most people who move to Florida, they're retirees, they're wealthy investors who don't need to work anymore. They live off their investments. Okay. Or there's a select few that just say, look, I'll take less to live in a better environment. And I feel the same way. And I feel there are some positives about some aspects of conservative state. I don't believe in all liberal things. I'm overall progressive, though. That's who I am. And I look at the statistics of poverty and where are they concentrated. Shout out to Drunk Hulk. Thank you, man. I think that's Canada, man. Shout out to you, Drunk Hulk. Thank you for that tip, brother. And I see you left some comments. I'll read the last one I can see, and I'll go through all of them. But thank you, Drunk, man. And thank you, everyone. Drunk goes, totally agree with you about basic income. Thank you. I'm generally a fan of big government programs, but basic income can be easily automated with software, fair, efficient, non-bureaucratic. Yeah, thank you, brother. Look, I know family members who are basically on basic income now. They get paid, let's just say $1,000 a month, maybe a little bit less, SSI. But you have to claim a disability and you have to fight for that. And there may be some mental or physical issues, but, it's once you put a stigma on someone that they're physically or mentally disabled, that follows them, number one. Number two is they're on subsidized housing. They're only paying 30% of the rent, but that creates an environment, number two. And number three is a big part of universal income helps the middle class. You say, Sam, how is that the case? Because again, right now, the very poor are getting basic. You're never going to starve to death in America. You'll get basic income through SSI or something like that. If you had some type of issue, you'll get food stamps. Even though Trump tried to take a lot of that away, which we have more corporate welfare than ever. I don't know why. I used to be a little bit tougher on social programs, but then I saw how much corporate people rape the system way more than the poor people. So now I say I'm not buying that either. But what I tell you is if everyone got $1,000 a month, let's just say, and you worked at Walmart, and you door dashed, and you worked a basic job or whatever, you would at least be able to provide a higher level of dignity. You say, Sam, what about inflation? Guys, we printed $7 trillion in 7 weeks. No one really cared about inflation. We still know how we're going to pay for it. So, Donald Trump, before the coronavirus, went into a deficit to give more money to the corporations to spend more money on military. We have a strong military right now and a weak social economic fabric. So what Donald Trump did was he built up the military and he decreased social programs, science, healthcare, and food stamps. He took a lot of the funding down, increased military spending. Right now, you're under martial law. So, it's like you do the math and you figure out how you get to this point. So what is it worse to be sitting here under Barack Obama getting universal health care where people said government was overreaching? Or is it better to be here with 40 million people unemployed, an extra $10 trillion in debt under Trump, and martial law? You voted for smaller government, right? You got the biggest government you ever saw in 4 years. So, that's why I take the argument of I want less government. That's why I voted for Trump. I disagree with your argument because we've spent more money on the government. We're more under control. And we got basically martial law. So, and we gave corporate welfare out the wazoo. So and that's where I do think there's a social, racial, economic issue for some people that voted for Trump. I think it was a spiteful thing done for a biased reason, not for a logical reason. It was an emotional reason. Donald Trump is the king of emotion. I'll give him that. He knows how to stir up emotion. And that's how he was able to capture certain people because they're not logical. They're emotional. But I think I just basically broke it down that it doesn't add up. Thank you, brother. Cassie. We are in a cold civil war. Well, I don't know. Obviously, I know, like, my parents came up, I believe, that they always thought like Russia would bomb them, and they had drills. Like, my parents had drills in high school that if there was a nuclear fallout, this is what you do. So I think we're in a better place than that. I know throughout high school, I didn't have any drills like that. Now I graduated, I'm 40, so I graduated high school a while ago, but I'm getting old. But, look, I hope not. I hope we're in a better place. Frank, Trump is live now walking down the street to the church. I saw he was going to get ready to go there. Look, he told the government to let off that tear gas and all that stuff right before his speech tonight, and then he's going to go to church to pray. I think he is no man of faith. I really do. And again, I really don't care if you're atheist, religious, or whatever religion, but I really think you're a scumbag. If you claim to have a religion and you think Donald Trump is the right person, I just don't know what type of faith you would have. And you say, Sam, you're over here cursing to us. Yeah, I don't care. I mean, look, I'm willing to put my soul up on what I'm speaking on. And I always tell you guys, like, if there is a God, I try to keep the faith. Sometimes I question. If there is a God, to me, I say, if I'm going to the same place as if Donald Trump's going to heaven, do I really want to be there? I don't think I would want to be part of that group. So I don't. So some people cannot like that, but I probably wouldn't like you. I wouldn't want to be next to you either. Because how he has handled himself since he's been running for office, and even more so in this past year, if you feel that's the type of man that has a level of God in him, then yeah, I definitely would not want to be in heaven, which I really wouldn't. I really think that, I think they just use religion to control people at that point. I think they force Christianity on, I think, on some slaves, because even in the Bible it says slaves should obey their slave master. And I think in the Middle East, I think both sides use religion so the people stay fighting each other the whole time, why the powers to be keep grabbing the money back. So I think I think faith is a blessing, but I think religion is used to either suppress and make people submit, or to keep them fighting each other while there's a money grab. That's what I really feel, and it's sad, but that's how I feel. Mr. Smith, if we print more money, our dollar would devalue. Did you say that when we printed $7 trillion for the corporate bailouts? Or did you say that when we went into a deficit to give corporations a tax break? Did you say that when we increased military spending? So, guys, look, we decide how much we value the dollar, the public markets. We decide the system. The system exists because of the people. If the people decide they want a different system, you can change the system. So, but if you just want to go by, all right, let's just keep the system we have. Well, 2008, we were already in $16 trillion deficit. So were you saying that before 2008 too? Because we've been in a deficit since the 1970s. We went off the gold standard. Why did we go off the gold standard? Because we wanted to grow faster. Guys, even if you were just doing things on gold and you had no inflation, what's the value of gold? If there's civil war, do you really care about gold? Whether it's a gold, whether it's a dollar, a yang, or a euro, money is an illusion created by the powers to be. They decide that you think they can't manipulate the currency market? Do you think the powers to be can't manipulate the currency market? Guys, there's a structure in society that is created to put people in places. Yes, you can get out of places. Yes, work ethic, and depending on where you live and who you are, you can get out of certain system. But there's a system in place to at least control the masses. Okay. And the people who do break out of the system or are able to achieve, it's your job to figure out, how do we help the masses so there isn't an imbalance? If Elon Musk is so smart and he can create a Tesla and he can bring someone to Mars, we should mandate that we get some of these smart people, instead of building luxury automobiles, that we figure out, how do we address human suffering and basic needs and mental health and financial health? Or do we just want to drive a Tesla to a charging station? So, or do we want to hoard gold? So look, guys, if the smartest people in the room are not worried about devaluing of currency. The somewhat smarter people, but they're not really smart because they lose more money, they're trying to play the currency market. And then when they lose too much, they'll bitch and moan for a bailout. Whether it's their father inheritance or whether it's a government bailout, they'll say, oh, well, the market turned on me. Whether you're Jim Cramer, 2 months ago, Jim Cramer stood on CNBC and he said, by any means necessary, we need to fund Wall Street, the bond market, etc., because we can't have mass destitute. He said that in 2008 too. That's when he pounded on the desk and begged the Federal Reserve to lower the interest rate. So I love you, Mr. Smith. I know where you're coming from, but I disagree with the point. Because again, I think that we as humans decide what we want to value. It's a shame that we value $1 or a piece of gold more than we value human life, and sometimes we don't. That's true. It's a shame that we don't say, look, no matter who you are in this world, you should have a level of decency without having to beg for it. It's not easy to do, but then we should just stop saying that we are the best country. And we should stop saying that China should allow Hong Kong to protest. We should just say, look, we're a bunch of hypocrites. The country was built on hypocrisy. We're going to allow change gradually, but once in a while we're going to regress, and ultimately we will preserve to protect the system above to protect a better quality of life. And so, change is scary to people. They rather stick to a system they know than a system they have to change. And I understand that there's many people who stay in a marriage, they know it's a piece of shit marriage. They know it's destroying them and destroying their family. But the pain of being in a familiar place is easier to deal with sometimes than the pain of what happens if I get a divorce and my children, and everything is different forever. That's scary. But what I always tell everyone that's going through that, or any change in life, is if you ever question, well, should I go through the breakup or should I just stay? You're dying now. So when suffering is so great and you acknowledge that you're dying now, you might as well give it a shot to live. And that's where give me liberty or give me death comes from, that spirit. That's where that protest spirit starts. And it's threatening to some people, especially to people who capitalize off the system. And look, guys, to me, I understand the system. I played, I understand what it is. But there's been times in my life where I remember I was on a high school basketball team, and I was getting playing time. And there were other kids on the bench that throughout the season, they didn't get playing time. And we had a varsity coach. He was a real asshole. He voted for Trump too, I can almost guarantee it. But we had a good freshman coach. He was a good guy. And the last game of the season, we were supposed to let the other kids who didn't get a shot, who didn't get playing time, we were going to socialize their playing time. Us as the starters and the main players were going to, even though we were better players, we were going to willingly sit and let the less talented players have an opportunity at the court. And that's socialism, basically, almost. And we all agreed to it. And so did the freshman coach, because he was a good man. And then the day before the game, in practice, the freshman coach came to us and he said, look, guys, I hate to tell you this because it's not what I want, but I have a boss. And his boss was like the varsity coach. He goes, we're not going to let the bench players play. There's actually going to be some people, starters and some varsity people that are going to take this playing time because the varsity coach wanted to see them play or whatever the case was. It was a lot of politics. And the freshman coach couldn't speak up because that was his job. He was probably living paycheck to paycheck or close to it. And everyone else was scared to speak up. And so it didn't sit good with me. And I didn't have to complain because to me, I was getting playing time. I had a good season. I wasn't a star player, but I wasn't on the bench. I played. And so just like I feel today, or when I talk about social issues, there's a pit in my stomach. And I'd rather just not be bothered and be by myself because I don't like to be bothered. But there's something inside me that there's a certain point where you push me. I say, I can't let this happen. And I remember speaking up and going to the varsity coach and saying, look, I disagree. It's like when there's a wedding, says, anyone disagree? And I said, I disagree. I don't really know what I said, but I said I disagreed in front of everyone. And no one else spoke up. And that was the beginning of the end for me, because that coach did some things to me after that made me suffer. When you speak up, you suffer for it. And I remember him saying to me, he was pissed, because I remember him saying to me, he said, Sam, I don't know why you're complaining. You have it good. You get playing time. Why do you even care? And that always stuck with me. And it actually made me feel good, but almost makes me cry. Because I said to myself, wow, thank God for giving me that. Because I think about that as I go on my journey in life. Like when you've been blessed with something and when you have it good, you have a duty to sometimes make it good for someone. Maybe they don't even deserve it. They're not as talented. But simply because there's a level of humanity within you that it's not just about the stat sheet. It's not, and I think it's a sad thing to see humans that don't have that mechanism in them. They don't have that empathy. And again, look, we're all a little bit selfish. I don't want to sit on my high horse because I'm not perfect. But I'm trying to communicate to you certain experiences in my life, how I look at things through a social way. Okay? And, that's what it is. Mr. Smith, Floyd's family's received $8 million on funds. Wow. Well, yeah, but that doesn't cure the inequities in the system. What about, so if we give $8 million to Floyd's family, or if we give $7 trillion to Wall Street, does that cure the wealth gap in America that keeps growing? No. So, look, guys, one aspect of it is sustainable financial equality to a certain degree. You're still going to reward the highly productive. You're still going to reward the innovators. But maybe instead of a doctor making $650 million and a nurse making 60, maybe the doctor makes 300,000. Maybe the Walmart executive, there has to be a balance. Imbalance is civil war. So look, it's part of it could be racial, part of it could be financial. But financial inequality is not just hitting the lottery. And if you do, you're going to see that if you have a level of humanity in you, you realize that you need a sustainable way to ensure a level of financial standards for all of humanity, not just today, tomorrow, and the future. And that's a very challenging thing to come up with. However, if we honor Elon Musk for sending a rocket to Mars and to building an overpriced Tesla to the 1% of society, why wouldn't we challenge these great minds to come up with a damn system that, maybe instead of going to Mars tomorrow, maybe, I can't believe that Elon Musk sent a rocket up to Mars on a verge of civil war. He's from South Africa. I dated a girl from South Africa. There's a lot of racism there too. It's underrooted. Okay. And even in Italian culture, I saw it too. And I've seen it in all cultures. Again, I've seen it in all ways. It's human. Pluto, love to you, brother. Sammy, how do I get over a girl that broke my heart? Good question. No contact. You cannot make contact with her. You need to go at least 3 months with absolutely no contact. And I recommend beyond that, but at least 3 months, you have to get your self-confidence back and you have to work on self-care. How do you deal with a breakup? You have to get your self-confidence back and you have to get back to self-care. You lost yourself. I did that myself. We lose ourselves through putting someone else's joy in their hands. Our joy is self-created through self-care. So what I tell you is the same thing I told myself. I went for a walk for 6 months straight after a breakup. And it's one of the few times that I really got hurt, because I've hurt people too. So one is acknowledge that. I'm sure there's some ugly women that wanted to date you and you didn't want to date them. So acknowledge that. And then two is you're going to go through 6 months of hell. But it's better to go through 6 months of hell than eternity. Like if you say, Sam, I'm struggling, should I get a divorce or not? Well, if you're in hell now, you damn sure don't want to stay there. So it's not easy. And I have empathy for the suffering that you feel and that you will feel. And I realize that many people don't leave a relationship. Some people don't leave a relationship because of financial instability. And that's why, again, when you have an inequality issue, people will stay together for reasons that are beyond love or well-being. So that's what I'll tell you, brother. Infinity. Thank you, brother Infinity. This government is a total disaster, Sam. It is. Again, I want to thank you, Infinity, and thank you, Pluto, and thank you, Mr. Smith. Again, I want to be fair that if I look at the context of human history, we have it better than many other generations. Many other. Okay. So, but it's a point in history that's interesting. And that you're seeing a tyrant leader militarize and oppress your First Amendment right. Again, do I agree with anarchy? No. But again, when you plant a seed that you don't want peaceful protest, you don't. Even Mike Pence walked out on an NFL game when the players took a knee. So Mike Pence, as quiet as he tries to act, he's an asshole too. I hate to say he's an enabler. You know, it's like there's one thing to be a leader like Donald Trump, and then the scary part about that is there's other people around him that allow him to behave like that. Whether it's the representative in Kentucky or South Carolina or whatever. He fired a lot of people that were around him because they eventually said, look, I can't agree with you. If you don't agree with Trump, you get fired. That's how he made his money. You're fired. And it's a tyrant leader. It's true. No perfect leader. I'll agree with that. But, let's take a hydration break, guys. Thank you. I hope I'm helping you guys. I'm sharing, too, just for myself. Thank you, guys. Jennifer. Hello, good evening, Jennifer. Love to you. Trump is a crazy devil. I hate to say it, kind of true. Trump going to make World War III? I hope not. I don't think so, but anything's possible. We need peace for all. Well, Jennifer, I love your soul. I love your positive spirit, even in the chaotic moment. So God bless you, Jennifer, and thank you. I appreciate you. I'm sorry I'm getting late to these comments, but I'll try to get to them all. AI Gaming, love to you, brother. Trump has craved power since he was young. True. It's well documented as far back as the 70s, saying he wanted to be president. He will not relinquish power. He will use any means necessary. It's interesting. I'm sure he wouldn't like Malcolm X, but he has the same understanding that, look, you had a peaceful person in Martin Luther King, and yet Malcolm X to say, look, they don't want peace. And Donald Trump is very much of never being about peace, and he should understand the human psyche, what it means to say any means necessary, and he should also understand the human psyche that peaceful protest is good, but he didn't want peaceful protest. So, he's just a nasty person. I mean, we could say it so many ways. He's a piece of shit. He's the devil. Look, do I hope everyone's forgiven? I do, but do I really want to be in heaven with Donald Trump? I don't. I hate to say that. Look, I ask for forgiveness. I need God's grace. But then even as I say that now, I really start to question how a lot of religion was preached just to make you submit and be civilized. It's a tough thing. Now, I certainly don't believe in just keep doing eye for an eye, because then, Martin Luther King said, which I believe, it never stops. So it's a balance of, you got to have forgiveness in your heart and grace in your soul and humanity. And then it's like, until you really, though, start to hit back, do they even listen to you? It's a very unique thing in human psyche. Gangster Talk, thank you again, brother. I know we read and we talked about that, but I thank you for your tip, brother, and I appreciate you watching. Jennifer, love to you. Jay, the real issue is that Trump is not qualified to be president. He has no military or government experience. Well, that's a good comment, Jay. That's what really frustrates me, is that you have a man that dodged the Vietnam draft. He got his rich father to get a doctor to write him a note that he had bone spurs, so he didn't have to serve in the military. But from his rhetoric, you would think he was the strongest military leader ever. He shamed John McCain. Till his dying day, John McCain, who was a war hero for this country, whether you like him politically or not, even if you think he was a fraud, he served the country, and he actually got caught. And Donald Trump said that he doesn't like his heroes getting caught. He thought, he didn't do a good job. And he said a bunch of other stuff. So does he really care about the American flag? Would he really sacrifice? No. Donald Trump would never send him or his family in harm's way. But he'll militarize. This is the other thing. I hope people are listening to this part. If you really care about the police or military, the worst person you could vote for is Donald Trump. Right now, every police officer has a harder job than they did before Donald Trump. Every military officer has a harder job. I've known people on the police force. Right now, I know that their job is harder because of Donald Trump and his rhetoric than it was before he came. And so even if you love, and you show, look, I want the best for police, military, I got friends, but I know their job's harder now. So I say to myself, did they really vote for them because they love the military or they love the police, or did they just vote for Donald Trump for spite? I think they voted for spite. Because if you were logical, not emotional, you understand right now that every police officer has one of the hardest jobs in the world. So the military, and so the citizens. There's several things that led up to this, but after the George Floyd thing, we wouldn't be where we're at today if Donald Trump would say, look, arrest the officer, arrest all the other officers that were around him, let's fully prosecute this, et cetera, et cetera. Immediately he said that and shown a level of empathy for the family and social issues that need reform. Of course, he would never do that. It's not who he is. But again, he spent days not acknowledging it, talking about Twitter being unjust to him. And now he acts like he's doing you a favor. Like he almost shames the protesters. Like, you're not really doing it for him. It's like, to me, I don't buy what he's selling. I never did buy what he's selling. Lila, Trump is a disgrace. Well, Lila, AK Zach, you were right the whole time. Lila, you've been saying that for a long time. And I've tried to, look, I've always told you guys I voted for Hillary. Obviously I tried to give Donald Trump a little bit of a shot. And I had the mindset of, look, as long as he doesn't destroy anything, let him have his fun. But obviously there's been points that I've had to take a stand. Even like when, I remember last year, when the one of the, a congresswoman or representative, part of what he calls the, what does he call them? The posse or whatever he calls them. He shamed someone who took the legal, like AOC and others, they took the legal process to get voted into office, and they're speaking their right as a representative to try to reform the system legally. He shamed these representatives, whatever he calls them, the posse or whatever. He shamed all of them at different times. So it's like you're saying to yourself, well, you don't want us to take the proper way in society and run for office and try to reform it. You don't want that. You don't want a peaceful protest with the knee. You don't want that. So then you get more extremism because you're saying that no matter how people try to reform the system, it's not good enough for you. And that's where you have a problem. And that's where you have civil unrest. Good job, Lila. You were right. AI. It is a fair election without Russian interference or Trump cheating. Trump will lose, but the disaster he leaves behind will probably take a decade to recover. Look, it may. And he may even get reelected. I can't guarantee Biden will get elected. Uh, because Bush almost didn't get reelected because we were in a disaster then too, but he just made it because he beat out John Kerry, who wasn't that good. So, look, I think that Donald Trump, he didn't win the popular vote just like George Bush did in the first time. But I think a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump, there was one reason, not Russia. I think there was one American reason that many Americans did not like the NFL players taking a knee, whether they were firefighters or whether they were construction workers. I think there was a lot of people that's exactly why they voted for Trump. And now they're the same people saying, well, if it's peaceful, we don't care, but they don't really mean it. So I think that's where you have the problem, Sherry, hey, Sherry, great to see you, Sherry Van. Hello to you. Tony, Sam, how's it going? Well, Tony, it's great to see you, brother. Like I say, man, I always think about you. Yeah, I'm doing the best I can. Again, I got people in my family that are stressed. I'm good overall, though. Trying to do the best I can, trying to stay positive. Love to you, man. Marcy, good to see you, Sam. Stay safe out there. I'm trying. You too, Marcy. Thank you. Tony, he called for the murderers of Central Park 5. Yeah, I remember that. It's documented. And then even when they were DNA proved they were innocent, all he had to do was apologize, like Joe Biden did. But he didn't apologize. So I don't think he repents. Jesus did say, if you read the scriptures, Jesus said there's one sin that's unforgivable. It's deplorable. It's the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, not of Jesus. He said, you can even blaspheme me. But he said, you can never blaspheme the Holy Spirit. It's unforgivable. It's unredeemable. It's deplorable. That's the spirit of repentance, of truth. So even if you get proved wrong, if you decide not to repent, you are deplorable. You're unredeemable. That's what Jesus said, if you believe in the Bible. So are they a bunch of deplorables? You tell me. Blue Lally. Hey, Sam. Hello, Blue. Tony, thank you again for that tip, brother. And thank you for your love. Love to you and your mom's soul. Think about her. Peppa. Hello, Sam. I hope you're having a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day, and I want to be thankful for that. Obviously, I want to empathize with the pain in society, mentally, emotionally, financially. And again, when I have it good, I try to enjoy life. You got to enjoy life. But I try to remember those who don't have it good. Why? Because I think that's part of having empathy. So, but I had an overall good day. I'm thankful. Tony, I'm good, Sam. Thanks for your kind words, brother. You got it. The band's practicing, bars open, but no live performances. Well, love to you. Yeah. Tony plays the saxophone. He's teaching online. Good. You got to be creative in these times. Do things online or something. And I think about that. A lot of people who use their pain and they express it through a creative platform, whether it's music or art, they can't really do their thing now. And that's causing the stress in society as well. That's true. Hang in there, man. Gina, the world is going crazy. The weather, the coronavirus situation, everything. Yes, I do think it's an accumulating things that society is really struggling right now in the world. Because again, you have a global pandemic and you have other issues in individual countries. But I do think you are correct. Sonia, there's no excuse for looting or violence. Riots are not productive protests. Businesses that were burned take seconds to lit, but years to business to rebuild. Nothing to shame on news. Well, yeah, like I said, but they didn't want peaceful protests either. So that's where you have the unrest. They didn't want people to take a knee. And today you had peaceful protests and they tear gassed them. So I agree with you. I don't think you should burn down businesses either. I don't promote that, but I have to acknowledge that they show you that they don't want peaceful protests. And does society really pay attention if things don't burn? I'll ask that as a question, not as a statement. I would like honest opinions in the live feed right now. And Sonia, if you're still here, I would love to. Would society really care if nothing burned? Would women have their rights if they didn't burn their bras? I don't know. I don't. It's an interesting question. Backwoods. Hey, brother. How's everything going? Most of this world is straight brainwashed. I love you, man. God bless you, Backwoods. Look, good to see you, man. It's sad. It is sad, man. That's a great comment. Who are you really? Question mark. Think about that. That's a great question, Dylan. Brother, I hope you're still in here, man. I really do. Appreciate you. You showed me a lot, and I apologize to you that, I know I got a little bit rough with you one day, so I apologize for that. I know I told you that before. But I love you, man. And yeah, I read that already, but it was good. We went back and forth. Tony, people can't help but look at disaster. I can't do it either. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know some people that can't even watch the news. That's true. Yeah, I know. Like Amber says, they were burning bras, not innocent buildings. Yeah, but like, one is, did you stand with the NFL players for peacefully protesting? So that's question number one. Question number two is, people voted for Donald Trump when even Mike Pence last year, he walked out of the stadium when they were peacefully protesting. Then number three is, if things weren't burning, would you really care? Would you be in this live feed during Civil War talk? You wouldn't even be paying attention. Donald Trump wouldn't be militarizing the thing. So would you really care about Afghanistan if 9/11 didn't happen? Some people say that, it was an inside job, but the mindset behind terrorism, okay, is you don't care until you feel pain. I don't agree with terrorism, but what I'm trying to tell you is that's the mindset. And if you're honest, that's why I preach social programs. That's why I preach humanity. That's why I preach make immigration more possible through an easier legal way. Increase social programs, don't increase military spending. Because what you did, and everyone said you're a socialist, but what you did was you built up a strong military, you decreased funds for social programs, and you built up inequities in the system. So what do you want people to do now? They're more irate than ever. You just printed $7 trillion and you didn't even ask about inflation. I feel bad for the small business owners, but let's be honest, you're going to get probably a government bailout. You got the small business loans. You're probably going to get another business. You're going to get FEMA, or you're going to get health, like a hurricane. I'm sure right now there'll be some program put together that if your business burns, you're going to be able to collect some type of like FEMA assistance. Okay. I don't want your business to burn, but I'm not going to burn it, but I'm sure there's going to be like that. Just like there's probably going to be another stimulus package now. So I agree with you guys. I don't think that's the answer, but I have to also be honest. I don't want to see that. I don't think that's healthy. But if we're just having a conversation, guys, I'm not lighting anything up. I'm just trying to tell you that I don't think society really pays attention until it gets bad. It's a shame. I've made videos paying attention before it got bad. So I've been trying to be part of the solution. But when I've been presenting solutions to try to balance the inequities, people have lashed out and say, I can never stand with the NFL players. I can never believe in universal health care, universal income. And they've been bashing against that. So I say, okay, I'm not lighting anything up. But what I could tell you is I've been saying that you're creating a system with too much imbalance, and what you're going to get is too much unrest. And it's very easy to light the match when you have all these factors in addition to a certain leader. So again, look, guys, it's not me doing any harm to society. I have no criminal record, and I don't plan to have one. So, and I've always worked. So to me, it goes back to like the head coach of the basketball team asking me, Sam, why are you getting involved? It doesn't involve you. Well, to me, it's like I'm just being a voice of humanity and saying, look, this is the situation we have. Okay. And you want to make it better, even if it doesn't affect you, because you see other people aren't doing as good as you. But a lot of people, they only acknowledge it when it hurts them. That's true. But I hear everyone. Frank, 6 months ago, you were pouring concrete. Frank, man, Frank, you nailed it tonight, man. We come a long way in 6 months, man. I'm really suffering. I mean, I don't want to compare that to other stuff, but it's true. Now, I don't know. Some people probably watch this. They don't watch my channel, but 6 months ago, yeah, I was in Florida. I was pouring coconut juice all over my body. I was on top of the world, man. I don't even want to tell you where I'm at right now. Yeah, I was all over my body. And then yeah, I was having MILF. Oh, man, I haven't had a MILF in so long. 2020 hasn't been a good year. It's funny, man. That's a good comment, Frank. God bless. I hope you're still here. I saw over the weekend, I saw there was one of the like the Jersey Shore t-shirt shops. One of them were open, and they're very creative. The Jersey Shore, like they have boardwalks by the mall, boardwalks by the ocean, and they have t-shirt shops with very like creative, funny sayings. And one of the sayings they got now is it just says 2020 sucks. I thought that was real funny and creative. But yeah, it's been a wild year, man. I mean, it's one for the books. Backwards. Let's keep it up, bro. I love you, man. Your vote doesn't count. It's just made up to think about the right to vote. But the sad thing is the president is chosen puppet by the elites in control. Yeah, to a certain extent, I understand the point, but I do think presidency matter. I look at my life. I was born in the 80s. Reagan versus Bush and versus Clinton versus the other Bush versus Obama versus Trump. To me, when Clinton was in office, times were good. When Obama was in office, he basically brought us back from the depths. Bush, 9/11, total disaster. Trump, guys, we're basically on the verge of civil war. So I think the president matters. I agree with you, though, that, there's other powers to be beyond that. But Trump is the wealthiest president ever. If you add up all the other wealth of all the other presidents combined, they don't equate to Donald Trump's wealth. So people voted for the most elite, wealthiest president ever. And that's why he doesn't have empathy for like a regular person. So it's an interesting thing. Wolf. Yeah, I read that. Yeah, but like I say, a lot of that's not Antifa. Just like, we didn't say like in Hong Kong, that's all Antifa, right? We said China needs to let them protest. So it's interesting. Love to you, Wolf. Like I say, I disagree with you, but I love you. Tony, I've been eating, what does that mean? Falsely lately? I have ever tried it, Sam? I don't know what falsely is. No, I don't know what that is, Tony. The right to protest is absolute. Well, it's always, there's always an asterisk, right, man? McDarter, what's up, man? These are messed up times we live in. It's a little wild. We just lost our freedom to protest, and now we're losing the freedom of speech. It's all relative. Again, I acknowledge that we're still in a great time compared to human history throughout the context of not just this country, but the world. So I really don't want to compare our suffering now to other nations that have a lot bigger problems and some that America maybe even caused. So obviously, but I do acknowledge the pain that's out there. But overall, I'm in society every day. I live in the public as nomad. And overall, I still see society doing very normal things, respecting each other, functioning. Again, the coronavirus on top of this, it is different, but I don't see mass. Like if someone, like my man from Saudi Arabia is here, good to see you, brother. Like if you were from another country and you were saying, Sam, was like, is everything burning? Everything's not burning. However, look, I've been to the White House. I've been to the monuments. Those areas that are burning, I mean, they're not normally like that, so Miami's, I've been in different parts. So, look, there'll be, most country is not even affected, but the morale and the mentality is affected. It's true. Tony, they can try to take away my freedom, but I'll die first. Well, yeah, I mean, I think about a lot of people that really paid again, that's why I'm not trying to compare where we're at now to other people who really did lay down their life. So I think we're in a lot better place, but it's an interesting thing. Backwards. Lizards in control are trying to take over slowly, so we don't realize what's going on before it's too late. We are all slaves. If you have a social security number, they kill off all the good, JFK, MLK, etc. Yeah, it's interesting, man. I don't know, man. I mean, again, your cell phone is your tracking device. Everyone has a cell phone, including me. So, I don't have nothing to hide. But look, if the powers to be, whether they were governments or just powers to be, if they really wanted us dead, we'd all be dead. So, I don't know. It's a tough thing, man. Love to do McDowder. Wow, that was powerful. If these protests weren't violent, would anyone even care? Just wow, yeah. And I don't preach violence, but it's something that just as an evaluator, you have to ask yourself. Backwoods, wake up. What's really going on in the matrix of the world? Yeah, sometimes it's like you really don't even want to know how deep the rabbit hole goes. That's true. Gina, what's up, brother? Shout out to Israel. Sammy, I saw a post from many truckers. Yeah, the truckers I pray for them right now too. Savat told me he had an issue the other day, or he's thinking about today. And they are saying that they will defend themselves by running over protesters. Well, they're inciting riots, though. You don't want to do that. I wouldn't agree with that. That will try to hurt them and loot their trucks. Well, I mean, obviously, they have a right to protect themselves. I agree with them with that. But like that one trucker yesterday on the news, the bridge was closed off and he intentionally escalated and drove into the protesters. So obviously, look, if you're not driving into protesters and you're just doing your route and someone jumps in your car, you have a right to defend yourself. And look, yeah, they're definitely affected because like me, they're out in the public all the time and they're doing routes all over the country. So, and I follow a couple truck drivers on YouTube. Shout out to KB the Trucker. KB the Trucker's from the Bronx. Anybody wants to watch a good trucker channel, I like KB the Trucker. But look, guys, to me, like even when I saw a protest today in the part where I was at, what did I do? I actually, after I saw it, I mean, the cops were there. It was a little bit tense, but I just went the other way. So, you always have a decision to make. Sometimes, not always, but you know, it's tough, man. I mean, you got to use judgment. You got to use judgment depending on what the situation is. Trump is a symptom of deep social disease, based on celebrating enormous economic inequality. That's an excellent way to put it. Mainstream media propaganda and America exceptionalism benefiting 1 to 5%. Yeah, that's interesting. On top, leaving 95% behind. I think that's very well said, Drunk. Good job, man. The economy will never fully recover. Well, Hulk, I really tend to agree. That's a very well stated thing. Obviously, look, I mean, everything has cycles, and we've been in an economic growth cycle for more than 10 years, so that cycle's out. Good to see you, Sabrina. Love to you. And love to you, Tom. But I don't see 40 million Americans all getting their same jobs back. No way. Out of the 40 million Americans, even if half of them get their jobs back right away, the other half will get jobs back, but they're going to be at a less amount. And there's going to be some people that are on the lower ambition side of that they're not going to be ambitious enough to go after. And there's certain jobs that companies have taken away forever. I see it. I'm honest with you guys. So, I really think, I still think there's hope and I still think there's a lot of great things in society. But I really think in 8 to 12 months, it is going to be interesting to see that you're still going to have a lot of people unemployed. You're going to have a lot of businesses go failure, mainly small or middle size. But even the big corporations are still trimming, and it's concerning. And as technology advances, even before the virus, I still saw, and if you're in society, you can see that people, there's never going to be a middle class like it was because a variety of factors, whether it's globalism, technology, etc. And if you don't want globalism, then you're always going to have an imbalance in the world. And that's what breeds also unrest throughout the world. Like if you keep other countries in poverty, then eventually there's terrorism that arises and it comes back to haunt you. Obviously, you want to balance it where you want to make sure your country's healthy, but there's a balance. And then with technology, no country can escape that. And so you have to figure out a way where there's a certain percentage of people that either are older and can't adapt to technology, or people that there's just not going to be a place in society for doing things that once was. You got to find a bridge through common social programs, just like we do common military programs and common corporate programs. You can't forget that you need social programs. And I'm not just talking about social welfare, okay? And because believe me, there's plenty more corporate welfare. I'm talking about social programs, something where you get you got Elon Musk, who we're saying is a genius. Why don't we get these brains in society? Why don't we get these brains to figure out, okay, how do we get a level of balance in the system economically, through healthcare, through nutrition, uh, all these different ways, right? How do we do that? Let's start to get these people together. But instead, like you're saying, we celebrate the rocket to Mars. I mean, to me, that was almost disgraceful to send that rocket ship to Mars over the weekend. Because one is, you're getting ready to corporate, SpaceX is private. They're going to go public. They're a corporation. You're getting ready to make it a corporate, profit-driven business to get to space. The NASA program, even the launching pad in Cape Canaveral, I've been there, that was built on government funding. And when we first put a person on the moon, there was a spirit of pride and unity within that whole surrounding area that was all based on like government initiative and social programs. Now you have a cold-hearted corporate beast that is, we have to make a profit on every time we put a rocket in the sky. That's dangerous. I don't know if you guys understand, like there's a difference between when we put a man on the moon and the race to Mars. There's a big difference, guys. I mean, so I don't know, man. Backwoods. Most of these protests are peaceful, I agree, until the government starts acting the protests. It's a balance. I have seen some people who agitate. So in self-defense, we fight back. It's a balance. Obviously, look, I'm not going to defend every protester because there's certainly good and bad. And again, I certainly don't recommend destroying people's property. And when I bring up the point, like, look, would people pay attention? The answer is no, if it wasn't destroying property. But I don't preach, I don't want that to happen, and I don't recommend people do that. But abstractly through my mind, I have to be honest, and through this mental exercise of a conversation, we have to ask ourselves, if buildings weren't burning, if cars weren't would people care? It's interesting. It's an interesting question. McDar, while yes, the economy is extremely important, our basic rights are way more important. Look, humanity is the most important thing. I mean, you can't have imbalances in the system get too far, or else you have civil unrest. True. Backwoods, wake up to what's really going on. Everything on TV is a lie. That's why they call it television. That's a good one, Backwoods. John, hey, man, shout out to Melbourne, Florida. He knows he's from by Cape Canaveral. Good evening, Sam. Just now able to join the live feed. It's great to have you. I'm sorry I know I'm late in these comments. I missed pretty much all tonight. That's okay. But thanks for all the positive inspiration. Well, I hope I'm doing something. I appreciate that, Don. God bless you. Backwoods. I know some people that live off the grid and didn't know this COVID virus was going on until I told them, and they couldn't believe it. Live with natural and find your true soul's desires. Yeah, it's true. I mean, eventually you have to go back to well, I guess you could grow your own food. But yeah, I mean, I'll always be in society. I don't have the type of mindset where I'll be totally like in a remote area. I'm an introvert, but I like to be somewhat by populated areas. So I would probably always notice, but that's a fair point. Ball and Thug, what's up, man? Greetings from Chocowo Casino. Where's that? Okay. Oklahoma. Love to you. Not my usual spot in Kansas City. This is the Closet Poker in Kansas City that is open. So me and some friends went to drive out there. Well, love to you, Ball and Thug. I hope you do good. I hope you have a fun time, and I hope you're safe, man. It's great to see you. Hulk, if Donald didn't inherit money from his father, I guarantee he would be homeless, sleeping under a bridge, or man has suffered and will continue to worsen. Yeah, I mean, I think he would probably still, he wouldn't be as rich as he is, but he would be like a successful Grant Cardone, a car salesman. He has a level of ambition in him, and he knows how to manipulate and play the system, where I think he would be somebody. I don't think you may or may not know him. I don't think he would obviously be as popular as he is. And he may have even died in the Vietnam War, because if he didn't have a rich father to write him a thing that he didn't have to go to war, he probably would have got drafted. He could have died in the Vietnam. So I guess, but you could say that about any of us, but I think that I think he would have figured out a way to make money in the system. But that in itself is not enough to say he's a good businessman. Just because Elon Musk makes a nice, cool vehicle it doesn't mean that he's a genius. I mean, I acknowledge his intelligence, and I can acknowledge Donald Trump's financial way he knows how to play a system, but there has to be another component to how we measure a person's success. Like same thing with Michael Jordan. When we compare Michael Jordan to LeBron James or Larry Bird or whoever you want to compare, we can't just say, well, the person has 6 championship rings, so they win. Because then what did Michael Jordan do to get those 6 rings? He treated his teammates badly. Yes, it was fun to watch, but is it how you play the game, or is it just if you win or lose? It's an interesting mental exercise. Ball and Thug, playing poker is one of my side hustles. Well, as long as you put it in the category in your mind that it's a hobby, as long as you are willing to lose the money, then there's that all of us have a need for risk. Obviously, gambling and investing, it can have a lot of harm financially and mentally. But if you have it under control and you're okay with it, then enjoy yourself. Backwards. Trump is tied with elite families, so of course he got all that money. Yes, and look, I agree that all of them are, just about all the politicians are tied into it. Hillary, Biden. So I acknowledge that they all play the game. But again, you say to myself, well, Sam, if they're all tied into a somewhat corrupt system, how do you choose? I just choose who's better, not who's best. So, that's how I look at it. Hulk will make women more scared and wary of single men. Okay. Peppa, hey, Pekka. Go back to Ronald Reagan in 1983 to combat the war on drugs. He started for-profit prisons. Okay. CA Correction Corporation of America. I didn't know that. I know about the drug. I know about the Contra, which was when he funneled drugs in America to fund a war, basically. Drug addicts were automatically a criminal both. Yeah. That's an interesting comment. Good job, Peppa. Ball and Thug. Not yet, man. I'm getting close, though. This week, brother. Ball and Thug, thank you for those custom birthday emojis. Hulk, totally agree with you about basic income, and I'm generally not a fan of big government programs. But basic income can easily be automated with software. Good comment. Fair, just, efficient, and non-bureaucratic. It's true. It'll be one aspect of a solution for a level of human decency. That's true. Tony, and there are always going to be some people, no matter how balanced you get the system, there's always going to be some people that are on the outskirts of the system, on the lower and higher end. But at least you know that you did everything you could to ensure a level of balance in the system and humanity. So I don't want to lie to you guys like there's one system we could put in place that will cure the world from being evil or bad. You're not. But I'm just trying to say there's better ways, and life is really about, there's nothing perfect, so try to live your best life. So, that's how you got to look at life. Let's continue. Tony, Sam, did I miss your birthday? Not yet. It's coming up, though. Dan, I'll start this week, man. Yeah, I'll be 40. It's amazing. I'll do a birthday video this week. Thank you, Tony. Envy, you remember that? I damn sure remember that. Sometimes I think you're conservative on the low, but I know it's not easy growing up in Alaska. Laughing. This is a Republican state. I know. Even though you got the petroleum dividend where the corporations give you a dividend off the fuel profits every year. To be clear, I'm not one of the Alaskans against peaceful protests. All right. Taking a knee was respectful and peaceful way of expressing First Amendment right. Good job, Envy. I love you. I wish the best for you. Hulk, thank you again for that generous tip. Shout out to all my Canadians. Love to you guys, man. Thank you. Gina, it's Sam's birthday night yet. It's close though. Sammy, happy birthday, brother. Thank you. I'm in a spot I can't really make too much noise, but thank you. I wish you the best, man. I do appreciate your love, man. Shout out to all around the world, man. Shout out to Israel. Hulk, the problem with SSI is it means tested. I don't know too much about it. I mean, I don't have it. I know a couple family members that have it. They had to apply a couple times, and they do have issues. And there's, I don't want to say it's blood money, but it's a degrading thing. Now, look, I don't really like them for who they are, but like I say, I've seen more corporate welfare in my life than social. So I think it's just a negative aspect towards life. And if everyone had basic income, like you were born with a social security check, $1,000 a month, you still have to work. Now, if you don't want to work, and if you want to just live off that because you have a disability or whatever, then, that's your life. But no one is labeled a certain type of person. And if you wanted to work, that supplemental income would help you without having to put the burden on small business. So if Sonia owned a hair salon and she couldn't afford to pay a stylist more than $12 an hour, if that stylist was getting $1,000 a month from the government and $12 an hour, she would at least be good. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't want to put the burden on small business to pay people something they can't afford. I want the government who prints money, who just printed $7 trillion to corporations, and who we went in a deficit to for military spending and for tax relief for corporations. I want them to print the money just like every other country in the world does, because every other country in the world is in deficit, other than small little countries or whatever. So it's just the powers to be have created a system where there's inequities, and there'll always be inequities unchecked. And so you got to be careful. Tony, so is Maryland, it's a red state as hell. They are trying to make away our Second Amendment right, but I'm going to protect myself and my family. Maryland is a corrupt state, just looking at the gerrymanderings. I don't know that, but yeah, look, guys, yeah, I'm all for protecting yourself. You have no other choice. Just be careful, because it's just be careful. Freedom, 2 lives in 1 night. Awesome, brother. Yeah, I appreciate you joining, man. Thank you. Hulk, I will never qualify for disability in Canada because I have too much in savings. Well, thank God that you have savings. And the biggest thing, what I think Americans can learn a lot from Canadians, is that they have universal health care and great health care. So healthcare bills are the number one cause of American bankruptcy. And you pay more out of pocket than Canadians pay in taxes for your healthcare. So if you look at all factors, and for me, I'm fine, I'm willing to say, fine, look, you don't want to raise taxes, just go in a deficit. We just did it already anyway. So there's plenty of ways to skin a cat. You could put a 1% revenue tax on publicly traded companies, not small businesses, not middle class. There's a million different ways to skin a cat. It's all a shell game. Guys, I could project a budget. You guys haven't seen manipulation until you've sat down with an accountant for a publicly traded company. Okay. So guys, you can make the numbers come out to whatever you want them to come out. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is you can come up with any type of program and you can fund it if you play with the numbers and you project things, and there's a million ways. Okay. So it's a wild system, man. Hulk, I think the closest current programs to basic income are the Alaskan. That's where Andrew Yang did a great job explaining it, man. I really thought he was a good guy. He didn't know the emotion of life, though. You're right, though. The Alaskan dividend, petroleum dividend, Social Security, because everyone gets it regardless of savings. That's a good comment, Hulk. You're right, brother. Tony, Trump sucking the teat out of big business and spitting the rest of the U.S. democracy to damned is, he looks at us. There's still a lot of fallout shelter under our post office. Look, guys, you're right. Look, the post office, I know there was a lot of middle class families that were able to retire from being a postman or postwoman. So, even if we went into a deficit to fund that, now I'm okay if you say, look, Amazon's scamming it and you want to make them pay a little bit, that's fine. But if you have a working person delivering mail, working, not lazy, and that's a function in society. Now, look, I don't get nothing in mail really, but they play a part. I guess people order stuff online. Why wouldn't you want them to have a decent income and a decent retirement? Being a mailman or a mailwoman was a middle-class job. That's gone, and they want to abolish it. Guys, look, if we're going to go in a deficit, let's go in a deficit for working-class people. They should be like the bloodline of society, It's amazing what they want to cut and what they want to add to AI gaming. We had drills in Florida. I didn't know that. Love to you, man. Thank you again for everything. Mr. Smith, if we print more money, I read that already, and I know we went back and forth. I love you, man. I appreciate you. Mr. Smith, I've been standing since 2008. Yeah, I know we went back and forth. I love you, man. I appreciate you. Drunk. There was no significant inflation after 2008 bailout. I'd rather we printed money reallocated towards basic income. Yep, I know we had all that conversation. Those are good points. John, it's great to see you, brother. Thank you for joining, man. Love to you. Thank you, John. Mr. Smith, thank you again for your graciousness. Yeah, I know we spoke on that as well, so I don't want to repeat stuff, but I want to thank you again for everything. And yeah, what we got to do, though, is we got to have long-term sustainable economic equality to a certain degree. Backwards. You have real soul, and thank you. Think about other people, but most people are selfish and piece of crap. Look, it's true. I mean, we all have that in us too. I don't want to start to put myself on a pedestal. It's but look, I don't want to put myself on a pedestal, but I also don't want to not boldly be able to say, look, there's times where, I have dialed it back and tried to get someone else a piece of the pie, even if it meant less of the pie for me. Okay. So, it's a balance, I mean, obviously, again, I do think that the highly productive, the hard workers, the innovators, they should be rewarded higher. But again, you can't let it get so out of balance. And look, guys, there's so much in the world, there's so much excess that I've always been like, look, I'm not insecure. So to me, I don't know why you don't let someone else get a piece of the action in however you want to see the action is. It's like, but there are certain people out there like they got to always win. I don't know. Pluto, much love, Samuel. Thank you for your love, Pluto, and thank you for sharing tonight. Mr. Smith, no, it doesn't. I'm just shocked that his family is becoming rich from his misfortune. Well, you can say the same thing about many. You could say the same thing about the Rockefellers. You could say the same thing about Donald Trump. You could say the same thing about a lot of people that made money off the misfortune of others. So that is the definition of capitalism. To profit above all else. A company exists to make profit. So, and that's, in one sense, that definition itself almost breeds a system of inequity, and that's where I think that even that label needs to get changed. I'm okay if we, I'm not saying go socialism. I'm saying you got to come up with a new label where there's a balance, because if you just went by the shareholder is more important than the service, what you have is disgraceful acts because people need money. And, that's the real, and that's where you have a lot of bad things that just keep happening. And it's sad, but I don't know if there's an answer, man, because human nature is human nature. Backwoods, much love, Sam. Same back to you. Broke girls, what's up? Elon Musk ain't doing crap for the poor. That's true. I think, look, he should be rewarded. He just had a stock option that made him almost $1 trillion. And I think he should be rewarded. I'm not mad at him for being rewarded. I don't care. But I'm just trying to say, I would honor Elon Musk if instead of making $1 trillion, he made $500 billion and he made an electrical vehicle for under $20,000. I think that would be more helpful to society. You say, Sam, well, yeah, his vehicles aren't affordable, but eventually they will be. Well, I say to you, yeah, big screen TVs are affordable now, but they're not worth shit. Because no one needs a big screen TV anymore. When they're affordable, electrical cars ain't going to matter. So what I think is Elon Musk is the ultimate capitalist. If that he really cared about what helps society, he would say, we'll structure our company in such a manner that we'll still make a profit, but we'll put a certain percentage back into the lowering the price of the vehicle. Because right now, look, guys, if he wanted to cut that in half, the price, instead of a Tesla being $60,000, it's $20,000. He would still be a multi-millionaire. His shareholders would still be rewarded. Maybe they wouldn't be as highly rewarded, but there'd be a balance. I know the question is, but when do you say what's too much and what's not? And that's the argument, and that's a fair argument. But I'm just going to say that, again, Elon Musk, to me, I'm not looking at him like he's God. I don't think he's God. Pluto. Sam, how do I get? Oh yeah, I read that already. Like I say, no contact. Man, you got to change your number. You got to go for a walk, and it's gonna be a tough few months, bro. Girl, laughing. You just replace her. Well, that's yeah. It's not easy though. Look, I've been in love, and I would never replace my dog. To me, if you really were in love, and you went through a divorce, or your husband died, or your dog died, for me, this is just my personal opinion now. I can never replace my dog. And I would never get another dog because I always used to tell my dog, you're my only dog. So to me, like if you really now it's just your girlfriend's, but I'm trying to say like if you were like really like to me, I think you do certain things one and you're blessed to have that time. But I would never. I feel like I can never do that again. Broke and pretend you're happy until you become a hot mess and realize you are worth living. Bro, girls, you giving bad advice. I love you though, because you said Elon Musk ain't shit. Infinity 999. This government is a total disaster, Samuel. You could put the Dookie emoji out there, brother. We're trying the best we can. Bro, girls, must be. Yeah, you're right though. Yeah, bro, girls, he's spitting fire. Yeah, you're right. He loves Trump now. Him and Ivanka and all, and they loved each other. Yeah, you're right. You're right, bro, girls. You're smart. 1999. Some asphalt threw a Coke at my Jeep today, and I was going to work. Well, yeah, well, that's a disgrace. I mean, I saw J.R. Smith, the basketball player, fight that one guy, beat him up because he broke his window. Uh, it's a shame. I don't preach that. I'm sorry you went through that, man. Vanomatic, Tallahassee, Tally Madness in the chat. Love to you. Good to see you, Tallahassee. Vanomatic, Hulk. I feel like Trump was selected by the elite to tarnish the reputation of struggling working class white men and divide people. Women are very scary and wary of single man they don't know. Yeah, I don't know. They said almost very similar things about Obama and Hillary. So I don't know, man. Look, I think there's powers to be no matter who gets elected. I really do. And I'm okay with that. But obviously, look, you want a level of human decency and language from the highest office, and you don't want martial law. I mean, it's, there's got to be a level of balance. Magnum, Trump is a divider, not a uniter. That's true. And look, I'm okay with not everyone has to be like a, rosy, everything. Like, I don't like Joel Osteen. I think he's very like, he's always positive. So I can understand a little negativity, but to me, like during the coronavirus, all you had to really do, that was not political. He made it political. All you really had to do is just say, look, it's a bad but he like during the coronavirus, he was like, liberate America. And I was like, bro, you just gave the order for everyone to stay home. Like if you didn't want everyone to stay home, why'd you give the order? So, and there was a bunch of other things, if you'd watched his press conferences, I think you saw, like you didn't have to really put a lot of effort into being decent during the coronavirus because everyone was upset. And even like during the past couple of weeks, it's like, even if you would have put a little bit of effort, even the speech today, when the bombs were going off in the background, like, but he's just he's an old mindset of the tougher I am, the more people will respect me. And what you realize is it's like the more you smother the girl, the less she likes you. And then she hates you. So it's like, you don't want to smother people with toughness. I understand a little bit of toughness. I understand. But it went way too far, man. It's going even further. Hulk. If people had their heads on straight, they would have voted for Jill Stein. I heard of her. I don't know enough about her. She's like the Green Party or something, right? Best optional contest. Yeah, those third parties are tough, man, because they ain't going to never get enough votes, man. Bill, Kemper Bill. Trump becomes best friend. Yeah, Kim ain't do nothing either. And they stopped China stopped buying trade stuff from us. They stopped buying agriculture. After the Supreme Leader sends Oda back on life support, only to die days later. What's up with that? I don't know, but all I know is North Korea never stopped their nuclear program. China stopped buying agriculture products, and we're basically at where we started with Trump's presidency. So it was all a big show. I think they played him. Hulk. Trump won because of millions of blue-collar jobs were automated away in a Rust Belt swing states that he won. People are destitute and desperate. Yes, it's still too taboo for people to blame capitalism. Yeah, to a certain extent, those are valid points. Hulk. So people fell for Trump, scapegoating the economic problems on immigrants. No, that's a good point. Hope. Yeah, because farmers mainly hire immigrants, and Trump has spent more money subsidizing farmers than any other industry. That's true. And then he goes, did I read that right? No. Because it's too taboo to blame unfettered capitalism for their suffering. They fall for Trump's nonsense about blaming immigrants instead. And that's a fair point, bro, girls. What do you think about immigration? I think my grandparents came to Ellis Island. Ellis Island is now a museum, not a place to migrate. So I think instead of the wall, we should have built a new Ellis Island on the Mexican border. Even if you wanted to increase, I would have been fine with the wall and a new Ellis Island. Because what you want is, I'm okay with secure borders, but what you also want is a safe, legal beacon for where to go to legally immigrate safely, cost effectively. How much does it really cost to migrate? It costs a lot of money for people who don't, and a pathway for them to come legally. So, but instead of building that type of mechanism, he built a dividing mechanism. I'm okay with the wall securing the borders. I wouldn't be mad at that. But why wouldn't you also build a new Ellis Island, that's where the Statue of Liberty is. The Statue of Liberty is a beacon of what America was supposedly standing for, the give me your poor, your destitute. And I'm totally in agreement. Let them come in legally. Let them pay their dues. Let us secure the borders. But also let them feel welcome and let them have a safe pathway in. But what we basically told the world was, we're building a wall. You can only come in the country if you marry Donald Trump. And, it's like nepotism. That type of mindset, so that's how I feel about it. And I come from immigrants. So, and my grandfather came from here. He was a janitor. My father was an electrician, then I evolved. But I will say this, my grandfather, as a Italian immigrant, he became very conservative in his whole life. And my father was a Trumpy. And what I could tell you is they're part of the problem in one sense of speaking. And none of their family members talk to them anymore. So my grandfather died. I mean, rest his soul. He had his good points. So, look, a part of the evaluation is looking in your own family, I think, too. And in most families, there's a civil war, if you're honest with yourself. And that's why I'm not surprised, because if you look at everyone's family and look at the divides within one's own family, I think you will find it very easy to understand that if families can't stay together, how can countries? And I think that's, how you get to a point of at least understanding human emotions. Bro, girl, who cares? Would he and his policies make sense? If he was Trump supporter talking like this, I can be his friend, and Trump supporters hate me. It's a disaster, bro, girls. I don't get along with Trump people most of the time. It's interesting. I mean, I know I say some harsh things. I have known a couple people that I got along with. But the more and more I hear Trump talk, and these people did some great things, and I would never hurt them. I mean, there's been times where I had friends that wanted to follow me on social media, and I've always told them, like, I don't want you to follow me because I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to say something negative against Trump. I know you're going to be hurt when I say it. I mean, but I have to have a platform where I can express who I am. That's why I deactivated all my other social media other than YouTube, because I don't want to hurt people I know that they may have opposite. I have strong views. And I know, so I will say, I know a couple of good people that voted for Trump, but every time I hear Trump talk and him get more divisive, I say, I resent everyone that supported him. It's tough, and I don't want to be like, to me, again, when he got elected, I knew he was a disaster, but I was just hoping that he would serve his 4 or 8 years. He wouldn't cause a mass disaster. We wouldn't go to war. We wouldn't have mass problem like we got now. And that's it. Because I really don't care as far as, like, Republican, Democrat. I mean, I tend to vote Democratic because that's my mindset, but I wasn't like violently upset. But as you go on and you see, it makes you upset. You know what I mean? So it's tough. Peppa, coconut juice laughing. That was a whole nother world, whole nother life. Crazy comment. Love it. It was a good one. Made me laugh. Shout out to my guy from Saudi Arabia. What's up, brother? Wish you all the luck with your support, you Americans. Yeah, like I say, I mean, you see it all over the world. And thank you, though, for the positive comment, Tony. Yeah, DC is screwed right now. We friends are driving to Atlanta now. Love to you, brother. Tom. Hey, Sam. How's it going over there? It's going. I saw a couple protests today, but I would say overall positive. Sabrina. I hope nomads and RVs who normally stealth in cities stay away. I hear that. Tom. I agree. Work has slowed down. Said he had to lay off. What? I agree. Work has slowed down. Boss says he will have to lay off. I'll pray for you, Tom. Yeah, I've seen it myself the past couple of weeks, man. Bobcat. Trump is dangerous for America as well as humanity. I agree. Supreme, what's up, brother? What's up? Yeah. That's great. Thank you. Keep up the hard work. Thank you, brother. And thank you, Supreme. Showing up and being consistent is the key to success. God willing. Thank you. Free Spirit. Sam, hope this message finds you well, brother. Haven't commented in a while. Thank you. But still watch daily. Thank you, Free Spirit. Virtual. When the government sends money into people's pockets, it will go back into the economy. I agree with that. The government will get about 40% back in the form of taxes people will pay for goods. I agree with that. I think that's an excellent comment. Forgive me for saying the name wrong. Ziki, are we about to be in a civil war? I don't think so. But it's an interesting conversation. Delexi, I never vote or been affected by who is ever president. Well, I disagree because I've been affected by Bush's policies, by Clinton's policies, and by Trump's policies. The job market, the tension in society. Right now, if you try DoorDash in Washington D.C., can you DoorDash? No. I know people that the immigration status has been affected. So, yeah, I mean, I disagree, but I don't know. Some people live in a shell. Showgirls, it is sad they wanted us to be in lockdown, but wouldn't pay us to do so. Nothing is free to live. We have bills just to live here. I feel for you. I feel for all the people out there. I love you, Showgirls. Thank you. Dar, hey, Dar, I miss you. Good to see you. Showgirls. Pluto, it takes a long time, but we'll get over it. Do not seek another partner. Let them seek you. That's an excellent comment. Showgirls, hey, Dar. Showgirls, I went back to work a few weeks. Good. I got caught up, but laid off again. Yeah, I'm seeing that more and more. I really am. Love to, Showgirls. Dar, hey, Showgirls. I hope you have been doing well. Thank you. Salt and Dar. Dar, thank you. I want to give a super chat, but I don't know if I won't send out a payment problem I need to fix. Well, just do you, Dar. Like I always tell you, make it rain on yourself. I love you, and I appreciate you just leaving a comment. Frank, 3 hours and 42 minutes till midnight. Yeah, I got to get going. But I wanted to just do this live feed. Sam, you back home in Florida? No, I'm still with my mom. It's an interesting dynamic, but at least it's good weather. Frank, 2 hours and 42 minutes. Showgirls, I have been in that casino. Oh, you've been in that one in Oklahoma that other guy was talking about? All right, guys, I got to go. I love you and thank you for watching. And God bless you. Snow Dog, what's up, man?